Good morning, students. Today we start the topic that is internal respiration. So this is the last topic. This is the last types for respirations. Your breathing is done. Your internal respiration done. Your cellular respiration is done. Next is your internal respiration. Let's start. So internal respiration contains main two components. One is your oxygen. Another is your carbon dioxide. These are main two components. So first, transport of oxygen. So if you see the transport of oxygen, so up to the total 100% of oxygen, your 3% of oxygen which are consisting your plasma, you can say dissolve in water. So how many remaining? 97%. So 97% oxygen which are bind with hemoglobin, and the one molecule of hemoglobin consists of 4 ferric ion. So which is bound with 4 ion, and also the hemoglobin which are bind with 4 oxygen. This 4 molecule and oxygen. So we got Hb4O2. This is your oxyhemoglobin. So now we see the saturation of oxygen with hemoglobin. Saturation means binding होना, the amount of the quantity of oxygen which are bind with hemoglobin. This is your saturation of Hb with oxygen. So as the quantity of oxygen increases, your saturation is also increases. As your quantity of oxygen binds with hemoglobin low, so your saturation is also low. So it is directly proportional. If your oxygen quantity increases, your saturation will be high. If your PPO2 means partial pressure of oxygen, it decreases, your PPO, can say Hb saturation is also low. So 100% saturation is not possible because your 3% are almost gone in your plasma. Remaining 97%. In that 97%, only 95 to 97% of oxygen, there is a high saturation because it's occur in your alveoli. When the blood comes from lungs to tissue, then the saturation is low because the tissue supplies the oxygen all parts of the body. But when the tissue carry the blood towards the lung, then your concentration is high, your saturation is high because it's available. It's the process done in your alveoli. When their saturation is alveoli, so there is a high concentration of oxygen because it's in alveoli. There is a oxygenated blood. Get it? So simple. We have to consider only in that the amount of oxygen binds with hemoglobin high, so your saturation is also high. The amount of oxygen which are low, then your saturation is also low. Now what? So when the oxygen binds with the hemoglobin, so it is dissociated. This is associate because oxygen are bind with hemoglobin. This is associate. But when it is not bind with hemoglobin, so this is dissociate. So if the oxygen hemoglobin which are dissociate curve, so the saturation is low. But when they are in associate form, the saturation is high. Now we see the Bohr effect with the help of your graph. So this is the Hb in percentage. Hb saturation is percentage 20, 40, 80, 100. And this is the concentration in how many amount the oxygen will be there for PPO2, partial pressure oxygen. So this is the quantity. You can say this is mm per Hg. So let's see first low CO2 and increasing pH. Low CO2. See the first one graph is here. Low CO2. This is low CO2 means in your hemoglobin the oxygen is more. So due to the oxygen is more, so that there is less in carbon dioxide. So that your graph is steadily move on left side. This is so your pH is high, hydrogen ion concentration. Next, your normal. If there is 30 mmHg of oxygen capacity, then your 50% saturation is there. So this is your normal. But if your carbon dioxide level is high, you can say the saturation is low, then your graph move on right side of the steadily, and this is the Bohr state that the pressure, the partial pressure of oxygen which moves the sigmoid curve slightly, which are depend on the concentration of oxygen with the help, which are bind with hemoglobin. So if there is oxygen concentration is low, then your graph move slightly on right side. Simple. So you have to consider only that if oxygen saturation is more, your concentration is more. If the concentration is less, then your saturation is also less. So this is your Bohr effect and Haldane effect. So that now transport of carbon dioxide. Second is your, we see Bohr effect, Haldane effect, internal transport of O2 and CO2. So we see now transfer of CO2. Well, the carbon dioxide, 7% of carbon dioxide which are bind with, which are in dissolve form. Get it? Now the carbon dioxide which again break down in carbonic acid, so which are moves in carbonic acid, but rather than it is break down in water and carbon dioxide in your second set. Third, your bicarbonate ion. These are done by carbonate ion. Plus is your, what can I say, O2CO2, then your carbon solution form bicarbonate ions. What about carbonate ion? The carbon dioxide which are bind with RBC. Carbon dioxide which are bind with RBT. But the RBC consists of enzyme. So the RBC CO2 RBC के साथ बाइंड हो रहा है, RBC में क्या है, एंजाइम्स है. So these are now constitute the carbonic enzymes. Sorry, what can I say? Carbonic anhydrase enzyme. Carbonic anhydrase enzyme. But its RBC does not contain the what can I say, the CO2. So it will again get differentiated in the CO2. That is your carbon dioxide, your H2O, and your carbonic acid. अब RBC CO2 को पकड़ता नहीं, so that's why it again get differentiate, again get dissociate, and to form the carbonic acid. Last is your by RBC, transfer of oxygen, transfer of carbon dioxide by RBC. Well, the carbon dioxide bind with the amino group of hemoglobin. Amino group of hemoglobin, and it is a loosely composed form. It is a loosely composed. It's not tightly. So it is a loosely composed form. So it get decomposed immediately. It is get decomposes immediately. So the partial pressure is low. So your PPCO2 means partial pressure of carbon dioxide. So in your alveoli, the CO2 is less. PPCO2 is less. So your hemoglobin plus your carbon dioxide gives you HbCO2. अब यहाँ पे concentration CO2 के साथ बढ़ रहा है. Your concentration will be more with the help of carbonic acid. So in your lungs, the hemoglobin which are bind with carbon dioxide, so it is HbCO2. So your PPCO2 is more as compared to oxygens. Okay. So today we stop the internal respiration is here. Today we close the internal respiration is here. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.